The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, and welcome to The People's View. The Honorable Senator Avard is here to work with me on talking about all these articles that we've seen about what's going to happen up there in Concord. And Kevin, what do you think that the biggest thing is?
I think the rollback of the on the
taxes.
It's a serious misunderstanding, and I think it shows a lack of depth on the legislators today that are pushing this. You know, it seems like every time that we roll back taxes, we see immediate effects up the road, and we see excitement, we see new businesses, we see energy.
Right.
And we also seem to take in more revenue.
Right. There's over $100 million each year, and what the projection is now for more than $100 million extra than more that we had budgeted for. And then they want to cut back all the cuts and go back to 8.5%. And that's silly. And I mean, there is one other bill that they only cut back the future cuts that we have designed.
I think Lou's behind that one.
Lou D'Alessandro in Manchester, yeah. But at least he realizes that he's going to save some of it.
Right.
He knows, and where's it go? It goes back to the towns. How much does Nashua have for doing their roads?
Right. I think they got $1.3 million just this recent
but you saw the activity in Nashua. It's all over. All the roads that are in the town that are really terrible some places.
I think you put it best before we even got on the air, that you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg.
Right. And
I think one of the things, the dangerous things that it sends across the board, it's twofold. Number one, New Hampshire's fickle. There's no consistency. If you want to open up a business here, we tried to show you, hey, we're open for business. Right. We're trying to hear, what business owners want. We're trying to make it friendly, business friendly. There's the taxes. Of course, there's the energy problems. There's other issues, regulations overburdening. But when you roll back what you just put there, what does it say to our nation? Well, we're fickle. Stop it. Go after one pattern. You see that we're drawing revenue. And more, putting in the rainy day fund in one, session. It's working. We sent, I think it was about $60 million back to towns for taxes.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my neighbor about this today. When we send that money back, what did your local officials do? Did they reduce your taxes?
Yeah.
No, what they did is they complained about the downshifting from the state. Well, the state downshifted, all right. They downshifted over $60 million to the towns for tax relief. Did you get your tax relief? What did your alderman do about it? What did the mayor do? They didn't reduce your taxes. They spent it, and of course, then they complained about downshifting.
Right.
So I think there's a shallowness and a misunderstanding as what we've done. And
it's been working for what, the 4 years that we've had tax relief. They only want to spend more money.
Well, they want to grow the Department of Bureaucracy. And there are many areas where you can grow it. And I think Senator Sherman, Senator newly elected Sherman, we've seen him many times in Health and Human Services. He's a physician. But just because you're a physician doesn't mean you understand the basics of needs of the general populace. Yes, you understand medicine, great. That's wonderful, and we thank you for your service. But when you try to drain the rainy day fund for one particular need, you lack depth, you lack understanding. That rainy day fund is there for multiple reasons. What if we have a natural disaster? Number two, it's almost complete. It was supposed to be $152 million.
Right.
You have that over a period of time so that you can reduce your bonding rate. We
Right.
have a wonderful guy, his name is Dave Fredette. Right?
Right.
He-
Right here in Nashua.
And what has he done? He's helped Nashua have a great bond rating. Why do you need a bond rating? Because cities and municipalities bond things out so they can purchase the fire trucks, so they can purchase the roads, or they can purchase the new pipes that go underneath it. And they have short-term, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year programs to where they can bond things out. Your schools were bonded. So if you have an A bonding, or better than A,
Yeah.
or a B bonding,
AAA or whatever.
AAA, well, then you can borrow money at a lesser rate. So if it works for municipalities, isn't it wise that it should work for the state as well?
Right.
So right now, we're not at the highest. Nashua has a better bond rating than the state because the state keeps funding, keeps draining its rainy day fund. So if you take that $100 million and take $90 million and you build a psychiatric unit with that, well, now you have $10 million for the natural disasters that could potentially come to New Hampshire. The most recent that we had was that October surprise. Remember all the trees got frozen and the power was down. Well, that's a natural disaster. If we had the $100 million sitting in the bank waiting to take care of that, then the citizens of New Hampshire would be taken care of. And the state could borrow money at a cheaper rate. But again, it's fickleness. You're attacking the businesses by raising the rates. You're going to shut down production. It's that simple, but I don't understand why they don't get it.
And the other part isn't simple. If you're expending more money, you have to make sure we can utilize that money properly.
Right.
So many programs haven't been able to catch up with the money that's been available. There's, I don't know how much money hasn't been spent that's already been authorized in some of these medical things, both with the
Disability communities is one example of
That's
that.
one of them,
They're,
but
even dating back to Governor Hassan,
Right.
There was money that was allocated,
Right.
and it never got to the disability community in a timely fashion. It got caught up in the Department of Bureaucracy, and that is really the problem. And I was talking to my neighbor, and I said, "So what are you, Democrat or Republican?" Because she just moved in with her husband. And she says, "I'm neither." I'm thinking, I don't blame you. But there was a difference between my competitor and myself in that I feel that the greater the government grows, the more oppressive it gets, the more entangled with its own self, and it becomes a very self-serving monolith, if you will. Or it's just the whole idea of reducing government allows people to breathe and live. But when she looks at her taxes, her local property taxes, she doesn't understand. Well, they're from Massachusetts. Well, if we get an income tax, there is absolutely no guarantee that those property taxes are going to come down.
All right. Well, again, you look at other states that have done it, they've gone up.
Yeah.
I mean, you have just neighboring states. Down in Connecticut is terrible. New Jersey is terrible. Just the way both the income tax and the property taxes have gone up. People are moving out of those states.
And people are saying, well, I'm fleeing New Hampshire. Well, where are you going to go? You know, we're in a battle, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a battle to keep the New Hampshire values that we've had, that we've grown up. Everybody said, well, it was a Republican state. Well, that's wonderful, but if you flee the state because you think it's going to be rosier somewhere else, well, then you're just going to let those that want to grow the government get even bigger. And eventually it's going to catch up to you. It's a nationwide movement. There's a lack of understanding as the role of government. And one of the roles of government, and one of the chief and primary roles of government, is the safety of its citizens.
Right.
Now, there's a bill that's come forward that outlaws sanctuary cities. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been against sanctuary cities. To me, that's there against bucking law. I mean, you can't just ignore the law because you don't like it. You know, your job is to, get people into the legislature who are going to write the law
Right.
or enforce the law. And I think that's, you have to enforce the law.
And when you bring in sanctuary cities and allow people who came in illegally
Right.
to attach themselves to the Social Security system, to any type of handouts that are out there, which are there for our citizens, which our local taxpayers paid for, you basically reduce the amount that can be shared. And we tried to fix the food stamp bill,
Yeah.
because people cut in line. And people get in front of, say, the mother who needs that
Right.
money. You reduce her ability to get the benefits that she needs so that she can get back into the work environment. Because somebody cut. Somebody who didn't contribute to the system but wants to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And so allowing sanctuary cities allows that to flourish. Remember the movie Build It and They'll Come?
Yeah.
Put in a sanctuary city and they'll come and they'll use up all your revenues. It's not heartless. What's heartless is that people cut in line. I've helped a number of individuals in the state, here in Nashua, who came from El Salvador.
Yeah.
They've been waiting in line for 10 years.
Really?
10 years, and they're doing it the right way. And they visited my offices. Senator Kelly Elliott, she was very much happy to write letters of recommendation for these individuals. We approached her office, and they're that close. That close. Some of you may know that I have a cleaning business, and so does one of these individuals that I helped. Saw him one midnight not too long ago. He just came over, gave me a hug. Hey, how you doing? And we went back and forth. And I said, so what do you think? What do you think about these people that want to cross the border? What do you think about these people that jump the line? There's a community of Latinos alone that are upset with that because they did it the right way. And they're cutting in line. They're taking some of the benefits, and they're not deserving of those benefits. So I think it hurts the community. It creates lawlessness. And those that have broken the law will continue to do so if they can do it without being punished.
Right.
What does law enforcement think about it? I really think that the country is really hurting from this division. And it's a primary goal of the federal government itself
Right.
to protect the citizens. That's its primary function, not all this other stuff. Read your Constitution. So I applaud the legislator for bringing up the bill. I'm not so sure it's going to pass in this particular legislation because there are those in our legislature that care less about our safety and care more for lawlessness. And that's tough. But that's really what it's all about.
And they play the game too that it's not lawlessness; it's just being generous because that's our history. We've taken all the people that want to come in.
Right.
Well, you can't just induce a happy environment by letting everybody in. You have to go through and vet them a little bit. There are bad people in this world,
Yeah,
You
there's a
don't-
thing called evil.
That's right.
No.
And you just have to look at it and look at their history, whatever history you can find in some of these countries. I mean, it's kind of difficult. But we don't want to not bring people in. We want to just bring the people in that are going to be good to our environment or our people, joining the group. And I think they have to go by the methods we have. If you don't like the methods, maybe you'd like to change some of the methods, but still bring it under a law-abiding procedure.
So think about the children.
Right.
As Representative Burt likes to say, it's about the children. So years ago when they came to Ellis Island, what did they do? They made sure that they had vaccines, that they weren't going to be a detriment to the society.
Right.
Though now we have measles popping up, we have polio popping up, we have all kinds of things that were eradicated a long time ago. My kids cannot go to school unless they have been vaccinated.
Right.
Now you're going to allow these people to come into our communities without any
Yeah. Medical.
proper medical. So now you're taxing the medical society
Right.
again, and you're just piling on. And here's, I think, a real important part of this factor. We know that there's 70 to 80% of the heroin, of the fentanyl, of all the drugs that we're trying to spend money to tamp down. They're coming from the southern border. That's a fact. Representative Pelosi doesn't want to know these facts,
Right.
but it's a fact. It's a fact that it's coming from our southern border. So if you're not for the wall, then you're for allowing this illegal contraband to come into New Hampshire so we can spend another $70 million, so we can create another clinic, so we can grow the government. I'm a little excited about this because that's really the essence of what's going on. You're allowing a floodgate of illegal
People to come in,
activity
yeah, right.
to come into our state, give them refuge so they can operate under a cloud of
Yeah.
of lawlessness.
Right.
That affects the citizens of New Hampshire. And okay, so now we throw more money. Supposing we threw $1 billion at the drug situation, is that going to get rid of it? It isn't.
No.
It's coming through, and now you basically said, well, here's a free pass.
Well, people are saying that almost the drugs come through the regular, but that's not completely true. What happens, they always find the weaker point. And what's the weaker point? These little bit more holes in the wall, if you will, or border. There's a lot of land there that they can come through. And it's not only drugs, it's the people that are coming in,
Some are saying the Taliban's coming through. Some people are saying
well,
ISIS is coming
I
through.
agree with that, but also the use of women for prostitution.
Right.
And everything you can think of which is against the law can come in through any weak point we have. I'm just waiting for something. If it wasn't for Canada being more organized, they'd be coming through the north too, and I imagine some of them are.
Yeah, how much does it cost for a B-1 bomber?
Yeah.
More than $6 billion?
Yeah.
We're sending money overseas to pay for abortions. I know in the first term of President Obama, he sent $6 billion to Africa. What did we get for that? We sent $100 billion on a pallet in unmarked...
Oh yeah, to Iran.
To Iran. Now, they're the world's largest terrorist organization. Nobody's saying boo about that. Oh, it was their money. Well, you know, we had soldiers killed in
right.
Beirut. Those were our soldiers. Did we get compensated for that?
Yeah.
I can go on. But as far as our national defense, that is part of the plan. And that gets delegated down to the states. And it is the states' responsibility for the safety and of our citizens, to protect it, to protect our freedoms so that we can protect ourselves. So I think, you know, we're on a wrong path here, but this is a good bill.
Well, I hope it does go through. I mean, it's one of the problems we have here that's, I think, significant throughout the United States. Some places more than others. But one thing, you brought up the fact that it's lawlessness. How do we train our children who are growing up, who are going to be the next voters, about law? Why should you make laws if you don't obey them?
Right. And I think that's really critical. It's I was just driving Kylie, my stepdaughter, from school today. They're having finals. Well, yesterday was last day of finals. Today was all their new classes. She goes to North. And I said, so what are some of your new classes? And blah, blah, blah. And she said civics. And I took a deep breath. I wonder how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
But in civics is how, that's an area where you talk about the role of government. But what are they going to teach?
Well, I'm wondering about that because what's coming out in the newspaper about the election of one of the school kids who represent on the Board of Education.
You saw that, yeah.
And, you know, one of the Board of Education members asked to see the rules for running the election. And she gets gets into a big cycle of nonsense as far as I can see, because don't they know they should have had rules? they had a law that says you have to have rules, and then they were saying, what are you accusing us of making, letting anything get away?
Thou protests too much.
Yes, right. I mean, why can't you just say, well, here it is, this is what we did, but there's only 200 some people, kids that voted for that in the whole school area? How do you run an election that way? That's where we're hurting too.
Yeah.
People get used to disobeying the law.
And that can only
it.
feed itself.
That's right.
I do believe that the education system is one of the areas where we have to at least focus on. And I think instead of the professors in the universities undermining our soldiers, undermining our economic system, we have congresswomen saying, well, it should be illegal to be a billionaire. What's going on? Crazy is ruling the House these days. And that is crazy. Sorry. It's crazy because it's part of the American dream to pursuit of happiness. As long as you're not hurting somebody else,
Right.
as long as you're not taking advantage
Imposing
of
them.
and holding people down.
Right.
So other things that are going on, I think you have a trans, what is that?
Well, there's something about transgenders in there too.
For new legislation. And I think the gist of it is that they want special rights.
Right.
And I think, people got to take a pause. Everybody wants to be tolerant. But there comes a point where tolerance asks for special rights. And when you ask for special rights, you undermine, in my humble opinion, the 14th Amendment. And what is the 14th Amendment? Part of the 14th Amendment is that everybody is equal under the law. But when you start highlighting one group of individuals over another group of individuals, you water that down.
Definitely. I mean, people think that you have to prove a negative, that you're not doing something that disenfranchises somebody, instead of them having to prove that you did something.
Right.
It's changing the uniformity. I think you have to have a discrimination law, but it's general for everybody.
Correct.
Okay.
Otherwise, then should somebody put in one for heterosexuals or for bisexuals or for who knows what?
Well, there's no difference.
Right.
Okay. And if you don't, I mean, you also can't punish some people because I don't want to deal with them. I mean, I don't want to. You could use Ku Klux Klan type of examples. You don't want to deal with anybody like that, or the Nazi type people that we're talking about. But no, don't. That's general. That's categorizing different people. You shouldn't have to. You don't want to deal with a Republican or a Democrat. All right, that's all right. Yeah. But don't.
Right.
Discriminate by taking away some of their civil rights, but everybody has the same civil rights.
And I think that's one of the problems that I find with the social justice warriors that are out there. It sounds good, social justice, but it's cultish. It separates us, it divides us, and on we see these divisions through this group against this group, against this group, against that group. Eventually, we're all divided because we're social justice warriors. It's cultish. And what it does is it allows people to define us who disagree with us, whether politically, religiously, or ethnically.
Yeah.
We're all getting combined. We're supposed to be a melting pot. And part of the 14th Amendment is for everybody to be treated equal. The only people that I think that really we should have laws to affect them, when you shut down the government, the Congress loses its pay.
Yeah.
They should abide by the very laws
Right.
that they put and impose on
I
people.
agree with you. That's, I think, one big thing that does have to be corrected, no matter which side you're on. You can't isolate your lawmakers because they'll go crazy.
No, well, they have.
Yeah.
They are crazy, right, at this point.
And, they make sure they get the benefits even though nobody else gets benefits.
Right. We shut down the government and we're going to go on a nice trip to Afghanistan, or we're going to go to a nice trip somewhere else. Hawaii, how about Puerto Rico? That sounds like a good time. I could use a tan right now. By the way, we're sorry you're starving because
Yeah.
we can't fork up $6 billion.
So,
I got a problem
no,
with
but that's something that, again, we have to look at it even from the local standpoint. We have to make sure that people aren't reacting the way they did down in Washington for that incident with the school kids from Kentucky. Why do those people who are calling racist and sending death threats to people?
Why aren't they being excoriated by the media?
Right.
And I think
Not only that, why doesn't get after them for violating the law?
right.
Death threats isn't legal.
It isn't, and that is a problem. There are multiple double standards out
Yeah.
there. Hey, listen, as long as you hate Trump,
Yeah.
everything's copacetic with you, right? But if you wear a Trump hat,
You're a racist.
you're a racist. And I've not seen anything that he's done that is racist since I've watched closely. But I have seen people that are tolerant,
Yeah.
use the race,
Oh, yeah.
are constantly. We don't meet up to their holier than thou standards, so therefore we.
And
are
we're ready to
washed.
jump on it too. I mean, it's really getting bad because of people have quick tempers, and somebody's going to get killed right there in front of
I
the
think
cameras.
So. Yeah. And I think one of the things that really would help. I think people should get engaged with their government.
Right.
Number one, they should hold the media accountable. And when you do that, you are going to get some backlash, but you are going to lose your country in such a way that you're not going to recognize it if you don't hold them accountable. Right now, they can say what they want without any apologies or repercussions because of the First Amendment. First Amendment doesn't allow you to ruin somebody's life.
No, right.
So I hope those kids sue.
Well, I do too. We'll see what happens out of that. But we got lots of things to talk about. I hope our audience comes back and listens to some of our future meetings that we're going to be talking about local politics. We're going to be talking about state politics. We're going to be talking about federal politics. And we're trying to just make people aware of it and how it can hurt them here in our audience. So people, please come back. We'll be here every week on Public Access TV. And you can look at older sessions by going to NashuaGOP.org and looking at their website where these sessions have been recorded. Thank you very much for listening in.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.